Hi, everyone. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
I'm Tashina,
I'm Justin.
and you're having coffee and tea with us today.
You sure are. Well, I don't know what you're drinking, but that's what we were drinking. I'm sorry. What was
I
that?
have a cat hair. I was going to say on my lip, but then you
Pulling cat hair out of your mouth.
Yep.
Cute.
Apparently, that's what I'm having with my coffee this morning is cat hair.
Mm-hmm. Well, nothing's
Typical.
new. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. This was an intense hour and a half.
Yeah.
Especially since we recorded 45 minutes and then completely scrapped it and started over.
Yeah. Yeah. So we started the podcast sharing stuff about podcasts.
Yeah. Podcasts that we're interested in, YouTube channels that we're interested in.
Trying to keep it lighthearted.
Yeah.
And we failed.
Well,
I don't know that we failed.
No, but we started talking about marriage.
Yeah.
And then that led us to the question of, is it okay to ask someone if they're planning on having kids?
Yes.
And my thought was, I didn't understand why it was such an issue. So my initial thought was, why is this such a big deal? I understood some of it, but then Tashina basically breaks it down and explains why it is such a big deal. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate you sticking with me and helping me understand, because now I'm like, wow, holy crap. No one should ever ask anyone if they're planning on having kids. It's so fucked up in so many different ways. Like, I get it now. And I wasn't, like, I was conceptualizing parts of it, but I definitely wasn't understanding the whole picture. And so we had a breakthrough, I think. I had a breakthrough.
Yeah.
You were already there.
Yeah. And I would encourage that if you're someone that had an immediate gut response to that, what Justin just said, and wants to go to the comments to hold off.
Yeah, listen to the whole thing, because, well, yeah, go ahead.
I think it's a subject that people have these immediate responses to. Mm-hmm. And I think it is with any subject that you have that with, it shows the importance of slowing down, taking a step back, and trying to learn.
Yeah.
And trying to become aware of where other people are coming from before you respond.
I think it's so... One of the big struggles is that when we have like a moral or ethical epiphany, it's so easy to judge people who aren't there yet. It's like, you see it in veganism all the time, of people being like, fuck you for not being vegan. And you're like, motherfucker, were you raised vegan? Have you never eaten meat in your entire life? Yeah, like, chances are you weren't raised vegan. Mm-hmm. You have eaten meat. You have drank milk. So when people say, I don't understand how people could not be vegan, you literally understand it because you've lived it, first of all. Yeah. And second of all, you had some moment that caused a shift and changed your life and changed the way you view things. So, like, don't judge other people who just aren't there yet.
Yeah, no, not at all.
And yeah, I would, like Tashina said, I would encourage you to listen to the whole thing, because at the beginning of it, especially with what I say, like, I want to take it back. Like, my inclination is to not publish that. My inclination is to cut it out completely because I feel embarrassed that I thought what I thought. And then 30 minutes later, where we're at now, where I'm like, holy shit, I totally get it.
Yeah.
I like, wow, I can't believe I didn't see that before. So bear with us, because you're going to want to shut it off. You're going to be like, fuck Justin. He is an ignorant slut, and I don't want to hear what he has to say. But if you keep listening, I think it'll be good for everyone.
Yeah. And I think too, where you were is where a lot of people are.
Right.
And I think it highlights the importance of, with any topic that can be emotional, with any topic that you could have that knee-jerk response to, of why it's so important to stay open, and why it's so important to, I mean, I said this before, but so important to just like educate yourselves on where other people are coming from and not be closed off.
Yeah, Tashina did an amazing job of, even though you were clearly uncomfortable and upset, I would even say.
Yeah.
You did a really, I mean, correct me if that's not true. You seemed upset to me.
I was flustered, I would say, because
frazzled and flustered.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, yeah, I think that's basically it. It is a very frustrating topic to talk about, because it's one that
especially when somebody approaches it in the way that I did. Mm-hmm. Of like, what's the big deal? And you're like, here's the big deal.
Yeah. And yeah. I feel like it's just important to listen to. It's important to have an open mind.
Yeah. So you did a really amazing job of being able to stay in the conversation and like help me
Thank you.
get to a better place. And now I feel 30 minutes later like I'm a better version of myself and you helped me get there. So I really appreciate it.
Good. I'm glad. I appreciate you listening.
Oh, thank you. Mm-hmm. I thought that maybe before we jump in, we could do like a little gratitude thing.
Yeah.
So for those of you at home, go ahead and join in. I was thinking what we would do is earlier the battery on the camera died. Now the battery on the audio recorder is about to die. So let's get through this. If the batteries die, we're just going to cut to the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
But as we're talking about what we're grateful for, think about if you can relate and if you're grateful for the same things. And if not, think about what you are grateful for.
Yeah.
And if you're sitting there thinking, I'm not grateful for anything because my life sucks, do me a favor. If you were going to be grateful for something, what would it be? Mm-hmm. So what's something you're grateful for?
I'm grateful that we are in the position where we can shelter in place right now.
Yeah. Yep. I am grateful. Well, I guess I already said this one, but I'm really, really grateful for you talking to me about what we just talked about. Because it's something...
Keep looking now, sorry.
It's something that needed to be talked about. Mm-hmm. And you definitely didn't owe me anything to talk to me about it. Like, that's not your responsibility to educate me, but you took that on, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
What's something else you're grateful for?
I'm grateful to be here with you. Mm-hmm. I'm grateful that we were able to have that tough discussion, mm-hmm. and that you stayed in it, you know?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that we already live together, because if we were going to do this shelter in place and we didn't live together...
It'd be so hard.
Yeah.
It'd be so sad.
Yeah. Like, it's nice to know that if I have COVID-19 or coronavirus, that you probably also already have it, so we don't have to worry about getting each other sick.
Yeah, and then we can see each other.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, what's one more for you?
I am grateful that so many people, I feel like I'm seeing so much compassion come out, especially on like social channels and things, of people encouraging compassion, being compassionate for each other. And I'm really grateful for that. I feel like this is a situation where it would be so easy to default to anger and frustration and a lot of negative things. And that's definitely happening too. But I think there's a lot of compassion coming out of it, which is good.
I'm grateful that I agree with you 100%. And I'm grateful that there are some politicians out there that are really fighting for people. Yeah. And fighting to make sure that we are okay. Yeah. Not just that big banks are okay. Not just that, I mean, I won't go on a huge rant. I'm just glad that there are some people out there that are legitimately fighting for the people. Yeah. And I hope that this crisis helps people understand how much we need that and how much things need to change. Yeah. And I still stand by my platform of wash your hands and vote. That's my official platform for 2020. Wash your hands and vote 2020. Yeah. Okay. Let's get into it. Good morning, beautiful girlfriend. Good morning. Hi, how are you? I'm good. How are you? I'm good. Please don't touch me. Just kidding. Oh, I just washed my hands even. What lotion is that? It smells delightful. It's Lush Charity Pot. I put one in there specifically to use for after hand washing. That is a designated hand lotion charity pot. Smart. Yeah, because my hands they're not faring so well. No, with all that. I mean, obviously we wash our hands normally, but with all the extra hand washing and all the extra cleaning, my hand skin is very dry. Your hand skin? My hand skin. Wow. Yep. Yeah, well, I have eczema, so my hand skin is Well, actually, I wouldn't say it's always dry. It basically goes between feeling normal and feeling absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I feel like with your skin, it's like normal, and then it's like this extreme overnight. It doesn't gradually get there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Usually I see it coming, but generally by the time I see it coming, it's too late.
Yeah.
It's like getting hit by a train.
Oh.
That got dark.
Yeah, that did. So yeah, there's that Lush charity bot in there for clean hands only, like immediately after hand washing only.
Okay. Sounds good. So should I dry my hands first? Or do I put the lotion on and then dry my hands?
I would gently dry your hands first. Maybe leave a little moisture on there, and then put the lotion on.
I was making a joke, but that is a pretty helpful tip to leave a little bit of moisture on there.
Yeah, because then the lotion helps create like a moisture barrier, locks it in.
Laxative? A moisture barrier laxative?
Locks it in.
Oh, okay, good.
Locks it. I don't know what this motion is, but it's very important to me, apparently.
The opposite
Locks
of a
it in.
laxative, actually.
Yes.
It locks it in, not to be confused with a laxative.
Yes.
A laxative is what you use if you don't want things to be locked in.
No.
Yeah. That's how
I
laxatives
mean,
work.
I'm agreeing with you. I said, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
All right.
So,
So tell us, who are some of your favorite YouTubers / podcasters / audiobooks for people who are like, oh man, I am so sick of just watching Tashina and Justin drone on and on about whatever it is they talk about.
yeah. I mean, I think right now is a really good time to support creators. It's a really good time to find new ones. I watch Kendall Rae a lot, so I'm definitely going to suggest her channel.
What's her content about?
She does a lot of true crime and conspiracy content. What I really like about Kendall Rae and about her channel is that if you were into those things, what she does is essentially like, I call it like Cliff's Notes. So you can sit down and watch like a 20-30 minute video about something, and she just highlights all the important things, and she puts a lot of research into her videos. Sure. It's very clear. There's, I just find it really helpful because, what was that mini series on Netflix? I can't remember the name of it on Netflix, but anyway, it was like a 5-hour mini series, and she did a 45-minute video about it. And it was like, I watched her video and then I watched the series, and she does a really good job of just putting in the most important things. Go ahead.
Well, so is the purpose of her channel and her videos, I guess, what is the purpose? Is it so that you watch this thing that's interesting as a standalone piece of content? Is it something that you watch and then decide if you want to watch other things? Usually
it's you watch it as a standalone content. She does a lot of true crime related to missing persons. And I think that awareness that it brings to those cases is really important. And she covers a lot about, specifically in those cases. Yeah, it is. Like showing photos of the people, and, if you think you might have information, here's who to call. And when
Ghostbusters.
And when it does come to true crime too, she's very respectful of the families. She doesn't show gory photos. She doesn't go into graphic detail.
It's pretty serious. It's a serious topic to be covering.
It definitely is. Yeah. Or she'll have like family members of these people on her.
Oh, really?
Things sometimes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I think
intense.
It is intense, but I think sometimes it helps people make the connection of why it's important.
Yeah.
Why you should never stop looking for these people who are missing, and justice for the families. No,
she
it's
really
not
is
just
trying to help.
Yeah, she's truly, truly helping. And then she and her husband have a channel called Mile Higher, and it's also a podcast. And I enjoy it.
People who get high in airplanes?
Yep. It's about pilots.
It's about pilots driving so high.
They live in the Denver area, so that's why it's called Mile Higher.
What's it about? I guess you were
similar.
About to say that.
Yeah.
Joke.
Yeah. They do conspiracies. They do like paranormal. They do some true crime there as well, and it's more long format. So if you want to sit down for like listen to something that's like an hour and a half, 2 hours long, that's a good thing to do. And I also wanted to mention it because right now they're having some issues with YouTube. YouTube has done, it's on their Twitter, but there have been a couple false strikes against their channel, and they currently cannot upload to YouTube. So they're having to find other places to upload their content, which as a content creator, I can imagine how frustrating that is. And I think it highlights how important it is to support small creators right now, because that could potentially impact like their income and things. So I think that is Bagheera agrees. Bagheera's like, I like Josh.
I didn't realize you had litter boots. Oh man.
Sick.
Oh, there's litter all over me.
Bagheera's like, here's what I think. Anyway.
Rude.
Yeah, super rude. Anyway, so that's a good one. Do you want that towel?
No, that's my ironing towel for our face masks.
Okay. And then I think, just other, I like their stuff a lot because I do think it's a good distraction. It's very interesting. It keeps me interested.
Yeah, nothing distracts me from the woes of reality like missing persons.
Well, like they have other, like conspiracy theories, true crime, paranormal. Anyway.
All very relaxing content.
But it's very like conversational and I don't know, like I enjoy their stuff.
Yeah. I mean, if you like it, you'll probably love it. Like if you like the topics, you'll probably love their channels.
Exactly.
Yeah, podcast too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was distracted with Akira. Calm down.
Yeah, they just released it on, I think it's Audio Boom. I would check their Twitter to be sure, just because of the issues they're having with YouTube.
So they released their podcast on a specific platform and it is not available on other platforms?
Well, it's typically been on YouTube, but now because of their issues with YouTube and the strikes, they're not able to upload to YouTube.
Sure, but generally when someone's doing a podcast, they're uploading it to a
I mean, I don't know. I've only watched it on YouTube, so I don't know.
Of course you don't know.
Okay, sorry. Sorry.
I'm not surprised you don't know because I didn't say it yet. Generally, when you upload like an actual audio podcast, not like what we do where there's no, the audio version of this doesn't exist anywhere currently.
Yeah.
You upload it to like a hosting site and then they distribute it to different platforms. So like Apple Podcast, for example. The reason I'm asking is because there is something happening where platforms are going to start wanting exclusivity. Like Spotify is going to start saying, we only want your podcast to live here.
Yeah.
Apple Music might do the same, or Apple Podcasts. That's why I'm asking to differentiate. So that's what I'm wondering. Is it for like it just lives there because that's the server, but then it's distributed to all these other places? Or are you saying it specifically only lives there?
So they do have it on Spotify.
Okay. So it's not exclusive to whatever the thing was that you said.
No, I just mentioned it because usually on Twitter, what they promote is that Bagheera?
Yeah.
What they promote is their YouTube channel where they upload it like this, where it's a video with audio.
Makes sense.
And I think so many people watch on YouTube over listening on other platforms.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was just curious because if you had said they have an exclusive deal with this platform, I would have been very, very fascinated because while that is going to be a thing, I don't think it's like a thing right now.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the direction we're moving in, but I don't know of any exclusive podcast, and it would be so fascinating if there was one. I'd be very interested in knowing what the platform was.
Yeah.
And how that whole thing worked out, like as far as exclusivity on a platform. It's fascinating stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like YouTube pretty much has exclusivity, but it's because there's no competitors, right? But it would be so interesting if another platform came along which so many have, and they've attempted to do things like this and it hasn't worked out. But it would be fascinating if one came along and actually worked out and then said to content creators, hey, we want to, if they approached the Jaclyn Hills and Nikki Tutorials and I don't know, apparently I only know famous makeup people. Peter McKinnon, Casey Neistat. Anyway, if they approached all those people and said, and they just said, hey, we want you to be exclusive to our channel, that would be a very, very interesting thing.
Yeah,
I wish that would happen.
Yeah. I think YouTube would need to get a lot of the weird platform kinks ironed out to do that.
Well, what I'm saying is a competitor that not YouTube.
Yeah. I know. Okay.
Which is why it would be fascinating, because I feel like, in my opinion, as amazing as YouTube is as a platform, I think that there are a lot of things that you constantly see big creators upset about on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I don't know that they're all fixable, but it would be fascinating for a platform to come along.
Yeah.
I think YouTube's such an interesting thing because they have so much leverage in so many ways. And creators, I think, get into this mindset of like, I'm the one creating the content, so like I have the leverage. And it's like, well, but they have the audience.
They have the audience, and even if you're a channel with tons of subscribers, like even if you have like a couple million subscribers, as far as the YouTube customer base goes, and like the people going on YouTube to look for content, that's a drop in the bucket still.
Yeah.
They have the power. It would be interesting because it is frustrating, even as a small creator. Like so many times every week I deal with this almost every day where YouTube Studio won't load for me. So I literally cannot, it just loads a white page. I can't reply to comments. I can't look at stuff. It happens all the time.
I wonder how much of that is your old ass computer though, because it never happens for me.
It happens to Rianne sometimes too. And
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, hers is even newer than mine.
Yeah, it's not just
she got a fancy computer.
Me. Yep.
Well, that's
but I see people complain about it all the time on Twitter too, and it's really weird. And to me, because I've worked for platforms, it's indicative of they're having server issues, but they don't communicate these things. That's the thing, is they don't say we're having our servers are really busy right now, and so stuff isn't working right. I feel like as a creator, there's no communication from YouTube to keep you in the loop about what's going on with the platform.
Yeah.
And I think so many of the frustrations creators have with YouTube could be resolved if YouTube just communicated more and communicated clearly.
Yeah.
But, the example, what's going on with Kendall and Josh, I think is the perfect example of that, because they're just getting these generic responses from YouTube being like, oh, make sure you appeal the thing. And they're like, we already did that.
Yeah.
And then the response to them is, make sure you appeal. And they're like, yes, as I stated, I have already done that. Clearly, I feel like their systems are so automated for better or worse. It's, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gira has thoughts.
Gira's hungry, I think.
I think he forgot that he has been fed and he has food right now that's fresh. I think he doesn't remember.
Dementia on an aging cat's brain.
Yeah.
So that was one.
That was one.
Oh, applesauce is here to comfort him.
Oh.
Okay. What was one?
What was one?
That was one.
Yes, that was one.
So who else do you like to watch or listen to?
Okay. Audiobook wise, I'm going to be getting back into, we've been listening to Harry Potter at night to fall asleep.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know that I would, well, you fall asleep, I would say in the first 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
I have noticed, especially last night, because we got up at 5:30 yesterday, we got up at 5:30 today. By the way, we actually recorded 45 minutes of this.
Yeah.
And I was just so tired.
Yeah.
And felt so out of it. I felt like I couldn't really talk. I couldn't hold a train of thought. I definitely I did not feel like I could get into a groove with you. I just felt like all my brain wanted to do was nothing.
Yeah.
But sleep. So we scrapped it and started over.
Yep.
So anyway, the point is, I realized last night that I really just put Harry Potter on to have noise. Like it could be music, it could be a noise machine. There are a number of things. It has nothing to do with the value of Harold Potter.
Yeah. I wonder if we should find for you, like, I bet there's like YouTube videos or a Spotify station that's like white noise.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be worth trying.
Well, there are plenty of options, including using an Alexa device or a Google Home device
Okay.
that does white noise, but I don't know. It's also not that big a deal. You know, like it's not really necessarily a problem that needs to be solved.
Yeah.
Also, the main thing I think keeping me from doing that is that I've been talking about doing this for like 3 years, maybe longer probably, which is recording myself saying something and then playing that on a loop while I sleep. And basically it would be like affirmations, like it would probably start with like a sleep meditation, like a guided meditation.
Yeah.
And like gratitude practice, and then extend into something that I could have playing that would sort of guide my dreams a little bit.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah. I've written the script like 3 times.
Why haven't you recorded it?
I have recorded it. The issue that I've had with my recordings is that I need to get my tones and my like peaking right, because even when I edit it and kind of do like an auto, I don't remember what the phrase is, but like equalization, I think.
Yeah.
It still is a little bit too like na 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 na. And so in the past I've like started to fall asleep and I'm like, I think maybe some of the bigger problem is that I've put it to music and the music will have weird things.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe I just need to not put music behind it probably. Maybe I'll find like an ambient. Oh yeah. I know what I'll do. Music Bed, which is the service that we use for Logical Harmony background music, which we should cancel because we never use it.
Yeah.
But it's also the service we use for the vlog channel, which we should also cancel because we never use it. But before I cancel, I should create this track.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
So here's a question for people out there. If Tashina and I recorded something like that, well, first of all, I think if Tashina and I recorded something like that, it would be you talking, because people are always talking about how soothing and relaxing your voice is. Maybe I would write the script, you would talk it, and then, yeah, we should do that. I was going to ask if people would want it, but I think we should just record it. And the video can just be like a blank video or something. I don't know. And then that way people can play it and have Tashina guiding you off to sleep like this. Hey everyone, I'm Tashina from Logical Harmony, and today, thanks for joining me today for this guided meditation. So go ahead and lay down and close your eyes and take a nice deep... So here's my problem with doing that kind of thing on YouTube, though. I don't want a flippin' commercial playing right before...
Or in the middle of.
Yeah, I don't think it would be long enough for them to do. But still, yes, exactly. I don't want commercials in it. And I also don't want it to autoplay a bunch of weird stuff. Like, I don't like the thought of something playing while I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. Like, that's weird and kind of creepy to me.
Yeah, me too. That's why... Well, there's the one that I listen to sometimes that's 8 hours. And I literally one day, because I was like, what if there's weird stuff in the middle of this?
Yeah.
And so I went through and like I played it the full 8 hours while I was awake.
Right. So maybe what we should do, maybe we should just start a podcast channel that's just recordings of us doing stuff. Trying to think of what the best way to do this for people is. because there's a couple options. Like we could do it and do a bunch of different tracks and then sell that as like an audiobook type file. Or we could do it and just upload it to a podcast thing and just have guided meditations with Justin and Tashina. And then each podcast episode, we could just switch back and forth and it could be a different like guided meditation type of thing. There'd probably only be like 3. There's only 3 I can really think of.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is why we listen to Harry Potter, but it's not necessarily a crucial part of our habits.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I agree.
So you were saying
it's not a crucial part, but I'm saying
audiobooks.
it is an enjoyable audiobook series.
Sorry, can I just pause one more time? I'm going to let you keep talking while I go to the restroom.
Okay.
So just talk. Yeah.
Talk normally.
Yeah, you got audiobook stuff
yourselves.
to talk about, right?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Yeah, because since we're re-recording, this is my second thing of tea. So
Okay.
I got to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
BRB.
Okay. Yeah, so I think as a series, like it's super enjoyable. The narrator is really good. And other audiobooks, like I'm going to be re-listening to like my Gabby Bernstein books. And I think things like that are really helpful because you can kind of just put it on in the background and pay attention as you want. Like it's stuff you can listen to while you're doing other things. But I love Gabby Bernstein's books. I think that they are very powerful. They have made a huge impact on me. And one of my big goals for the year is to get back into more self-improvement. I've talked about wanting to do more self-improvement content. And the big driver behind that is the fact that I have not been really practicing it that well and focusing on like, you know, making sure I'm reading the right things and stuff like that. And I think right now with everything going on, it's very important for a lot of us to get back into that. And I think audiobooks are a really easy way to do it because you can put them on while you're doing other things. So I would highly suggest Gabby Bernstein. Spirit Junkie is great. She has a few that are like 30 days to whatever. And I feel like as an audiobook, you're going to listen for like 2 minutes and then it's going to be the exercise and that's it for the day. So if you're looking for something that's like super bite-sized, that could be a good way for you to do it too. But yeah, I think Gabby Bernstein books are great. I also like Marianne Williamson's audiobooks. Now I know she's kind of controversial, but I think the general message
Why
behind
is she controversial?
I mean, she was a presidential candidate and a lot of people thought she was kind of wacky and out there.
She is kind of wacky and out there.
She is. And as someone who is not like, I don't feel like, okay, I think with a lot of spiritual authors, they say God and they don't necessarily mean the Christian God that people think of.
Yeah.
So for people like me who are not religious, you can just sub that with whatever word. And that's what a lot of them have said in interviews is like, when I say God, I say that because most people have something that they think of when that word is said. And it doesn't mean literal, like the Christian thinking of God.
Yeah.
But she has quite a few that are really helpful for self-improvement, but also she has one, it's called The Law of Divine Compensation. And it's basically about helping you get in a better mindset to attract money. And I used to listen to that one a lot when I worked in tech, and that I was listening to it a ton through an interview process with other jobs when I was transitioning jobs and got hired at a new role that paid almost 50% more. And I fully think that part of what empowered me to feel confident asking for such a significant amount of money from this new company was having listened to that book. And I know right now a lot of people are really stressed out about finances and really kind of struggling in that regard. And so I think that could be a really good book for a lot of people to listen to just to kind of help get yourself in a better mindset about those things.
Yeah.
So that's one I'm going to be listening to. And I just enjoy listening to her talk. Like she and Gabby Bernstein both read their own audiobooks. And I always enjoy it. Like obviously, like I like Jim Dale, the guy who reads Harry Potter, because for fiction books, it's humorous. But when it's a personal development book, I prefer it when the author reads it because I feel like it helps you truly tap into how they want the content to be presented. And I feel like it just creates a better connection. And I understand the content better when it's the author reading it. And then if it's someone like Gabby, who I've seen speak multiple times, I feel like it would be weird to have someone else be reading it, because I'd be like, but you're not Gabby. What's going on? I don't think I'd get the same out of
Where's
it.
Gabby?
Yeah, where is Gabby? What's going on?
Do you want to sit up here or not?
And Gabby Bernstein, too, she also has a bunch of YouTube videos up that you could watch. She does a lot of like meditation videos and things like that. And also just a lot of like more self-improvement type stuff. She used to do a ton of live videos. So I think digging those up could be another good option for people, too. You can also find a lot of her lectures on Spotify. Yeah. So that is something I'm going to be listening to, and I would encourage others to do the same, because Gabby Bernstein's like my favorite author in that space. And I feel like there's a chunk of hair right there. I feel like I've learned a lot from her, and her work has just helped me so much that I've recommended her for years, and I will continue to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I like Gabby Bernstein.
Yeah. What about you, Junie?
The first time I met Gabby Bernstein.
Oh, yeah. This is a funny story.
So Gabby Bernstein events, at least all the ones we've been to, are primarily made up of women in the audience.
Yeah.
Like I would say 99.9%.
Yes.
I think most of the events that we've gone to, I've been one of two, sometimes three out of, several hundred people that are there that are men. And so at one event, there's this huge line for the bathrooms. Yeah. And it was like, not very long before she was going to be on stage. And so I'm sure, she had to use the restroom. And I'm sure she was thinking, well, just like at all my other events, there's no dudes here. So I'm like doing my thing in a urinal and hear like the clickety clock of high heels, and turn around and it's Gabby Bernstein. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, like I think it was good because the look on her face was like, she was just as shocked that I was in there as I was that she was in there. And I think we both just I was like, hey. And then she was like, hi. And then turned around, just like left.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
And we were volunteers. Like every time we've seen her speak, we've been volunteers.
I think the first time we weren't. We were in the audience.
Really?
Not to be, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Huh. Not to be splitting hairs here.
Okay.
But pretty sure the first time we went, we weren't. And then we found out about it afterward. Anyway, doesn't matter. We should really go back to the 80% rule. Do you remember that rule?
If the person's 80% correct, just let it go.
Yeah, you don't have to correct them.
Yeah.
I should practice that more.
We both should.
Okay, let's start right now.
Okay.
All right. Ready, go. So I like Gabby Bernstein. I would say podcast-wise, I don't listen to a ton of podcasts at once. In fact, I would say this is this point in my life, I'm listening to the most podcasts that I listen to. But for years, the only podcast that I listened to was Pat Flynn's Smart Passive Income, which I don't know what it's like now because I haven't listened to a single episode in at least a year. But even if you go back to his episodes from 2015, 2016.
Yeah. He has so many.
He has so many, and so many that are extremely helpful and that have had a massive impact on Logical Harmony and how we run Logical Harmony.
Yeah.
I would say him and Gary Vee's podcast are the two that business-wise have had the biggest impacts on Logical Harmony and how we run things. I would always suggest Pat Flynn, Smart Passive Income, amazing content. And then obviously, like I just said, Gary Vee's audio experience. I love Gary Vee. I've had the opportunity to shoot a little bit of stuff for his wine brand, tiny amounts of things, but still stuff that I was really happy and proud to be a part of. What?
That sentence was structured cute. It sounded like his wine brand was named Tiny Amounts of Things.
His wine brand is Empathy Wines, and the people who run it, the winemakers, everybody is just, it's great people. I haven't had the opportunity to taste the wines yet because, well, I won't get into it. It's a long story, but suffice to say, the current issue is that we live in Utah where you cannot ship wine unless it's like it's a whole thing. It's a whole stupid thing. Anyway, who else do I love? Oh, so recently I've been listening to more entertaining stuff.
Yeah.
I will say that I think that Smart Passive Income and Gary Vee's podcast are definitely ones that you can just put on and be entertained by.
Yeah, totally.
That said, I think a more middle of the road podcast would be Tim Ferriss, the Tim Ferriss Show, which, that's not like, none of these are like discoveries, right? Like,
yeah,
if you've heard of podcasts, you've heard of Tim Ferriss, and he has so many amazing episodes where he just interviews these world-class people. And even if you don't necessarily agree with the person's business, I think there's always something to be learned from Tim's episodes. He has everybody from Josh Waitsnick or Waitskin. I can never remember if it's Waitskin or Waitsnick, but the kid, he's an adult now, but the guy who as a child, the movie, Searching for Bobby Fischer was based off of this dude.
Yeah, I love the episodes with him on it.
Yeah, me
They're
too.
so interesting. Their dynamic is great. Like, I think they're friends in real life.
Yeah, they're friends.
But it's just so interesting to hear his thoughts on things and how he does, like, he talks a lot about his mental process.
Yeah.
And I find that fascinating. Like, they're some of my favorite episodes, and they're really long, but like,
like 2-3 hours.
Yeah, but they're super interesting. And I think too, it's because since they are friends, it's this mix of casual conversation and then these deeper dives into more in-depth details.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm looking up another episode of Tim's that I have absolutely loved, but I don't remember who he's interviewing.
Applesauce, don't hunt Bagheera.
Let me see. Ask. I really hope I can find this guy's name because I'm doing such a disservice because I don't remember what the episode is called. I don't remember. The person he interviewed has a name that's very much like from a time period. Like, you would not expect to hear this name. It's so good. Anyway, the person that he interviews, or the person that he talks to, is this like world-class interviewer who's been credited with like sitting down with world leaders who said, I only have 30 seconds to talk to you. I have so many other interviews. And then getting, by getting them to open up, having this, from 30 seconds to 30 minutes conversation. Just because he's so good at interviewing that he's able to get people so comfortable that they're pushing their time limits as long as they can. He tells stories about how he traveled around Europe, and basically what he would do is he would get on a train, and it's such a good interview. He talks about, you get on the train and there's like a beautiful young woman on the train.
Yeah.
And then there's like a grandma on the train. And he would go and sit next to the grandma. So he'd be in some country he's never been in where he barely speaks the language, or doesn't speak the language rather, and sits down on this train and starts trying to talk to this grandma. And eventually, one of the younger people who speaks English and whatever language of the country that he's in would start translating. And he would start talking to this grandma, and then he would say something like, what makes the best goulash? And then the grandma would start going into all these details of what makes these traditional dishes amazing. And then eventually insist that he come over and he has to try hers, you know? And basically he would go to these houses and hang out with these families. And then, you know, somebody would inevitably say, oh man, if you like goulash, have you tried X? And he's like, no, I haven't. They're like, well, my cousin makes the best. And they would take him to a different village. And so basically he just talks about how he traveled all over trying all these foods and being invited into all these homes. And it's just like such a great interview. He tells a story of how when he was a kid, he got into boxing and boxed this kid who just destroyed him. And then decades later, this guy who he had been destroyed by is like a professional boxer, and how he convinces him to, you know, do a rematch, and just all this just really hilarious and interesting stuff to hear from somebody who I always think about, like, you know, there's that saying, I think Jim Rohn said it. I think I quoted Jim Rohn in the last one too. He said something like, you might meet an 80-year-old, but they haven't lived 80 years. They've lived the same year 60 times. I feel like we're falling into that. Like, I feel like we've lived the same year for like 5 years. Anyway, but then there are other people who have lived several lifetimes in one. And I feel like the guy who is in this episode, the episode's titled something like Master Interviewer, like Lessons from a Master Interviewer, or I don't know. Maybe you talk about something else that you enjoy, and I'll try to find the episode.
Sorry, applesauce just stuck her head into this empty flower pot. Yeah, I think another show that I like that is very,
Cal Fussman.
That's
his name.
That's
See?
such an odd name.
But isn't that totally accurate? Like, it's a name you would not. It's like
a news announcer from the 50s.
Yeah, you could like guess how old he is, right? Like hi, I'm Cal Fussman. Like no one has been born in 50 years named Cal Fussman. I would imagine.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's episode. Oh, he's been on there a couple times. I believe the one that I'm referencing is episode 259, Lessons from 50,000 Interviews. Wait, no. Anyway, whatever. Just go to the Tim Ferriss show. Listen to any episode with Cal Fussman on it. Because there's Cal Fussman in the power of listening. Anyway, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. Okay, where were you?
I was going to say, as far as like very fluffy podcasts go, I like the Target Girl.
Okay, tell us more about the Target Girl.
The whole premise of it, it's pretty smart. So she's a content creator, and she just creates content around stuff you get at Target. And in the podcast, she interviews other content creators and owners of businesses whose products are sold at Target. And it's very lightweight. They're pretty short, but I find them really interesting because you do get these good bits of knowledge, but it's mixed in with questions too. Like, what are 3 things you always buy at Target? Like, it's a good mix of kind of like what you were, you know, Tim Ferriss interviewing his friend, where it's like the lightweight stuff and then the more like actual kind of deeper dive questions. Like, you know, she'll talk to other content creators, and I found it through Jennifer, I think it's Jennifer X Lauren on Instagram, who's a content creator in Austin that I really like, and I followed her for a long time. And she was on an episode.
Will you say that again? Because we said it at the exact same time when I made my Jennifer Aniston joke.
Okay, let me...
Jennifer X Lauren is her Instagram? Just because I want to make sure my joke isn't preventing people from actually knowing what you're saying. Yeah,
Jennifer X Lauren.
Okay.
And she is a content creator, but she and her partner own a couple of businesses together. And she used to own an online boutique and all, you know, anyway.
Same.
I found the Target Girl through her because she was being interviewed. And it was just super interesting to hear questions, that she had to ask, because I just feel like the vibe is different than a lot of these more businessy podcasts that I feel like are done by older men. I feel like the vibe is very, very different. And as a woman, it's super fascinating to hear these answers from other women that are in my same age range.
Sure.
And, some of them have had corporate jobs, some of them haven't.
Yeah.
And so it's just really interesting to hear about like what their struggles are. Like, it's very, very relatable.
Yeah, totally.
In a different way. Like, I have a much harder time relating to, these middle-aged dudes that are like, yeah, I just walked in and said I wanted 90,000 and they gave me 95. That's not something I can relate to.
I'm a white male. Give me more money. And they're like, okay.
Like, sure, sounds logical. Yeah, let's do that. You haven't shown up for work in 3 weeks? Cool. Here's an extra $10,000. It's a fictional example, but you guys get the point. And so I feel like through the Target Girl, it's lightweight, but it is helpful, and I find it the guests she has on are very relatable.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I could see how just being a man and not going through the same challenges that a woman faces, you wouldn't even think of asking the same questions because it's not even on your radar because you just never had to deal with it.
Yeah, totally.
And so, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we talked about this because I've heard you talk about that podcast before, but I've never heard you break it down that way. Like, I didn't know that was a big part of what you liked about it.
Yeah. And it's not like she's sitting there going, tell me what your struggles are being a woman in business. Right. But inevitably, there's things that get brought up about, people who are like, I started my company because there was no more growth for me at my previous company, and other people were getting promoted and things like that. Like, stuff that's very, very relatable.
You get sick of making 70 cents on a dollar and you eventually say fuck you and go start your own business.
Exactly. Or they're starting their own business or starting as a content creator, and people don't take them seriously because they're like, you're a dumb blonde girl. Like, it's just things like that I think as a woman are very relatable, that it's not like that's the intent of the Target Girl podcast, but it gets brought up in almost every episode in some way or another. And I find it's just nice to be like, oh yeah, that's unfortunately something a lot of us have dealt with and can relate to.
Yeah.
And then to hear stories of women who have come out of that or hear how they push through it. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Sounds like a good podcast.
I like it.
For light and fluffy for me, a couple things I've been listening to a lot lately. The Office Ladies.
I like that one.
Which is a rewatch podcast hosted by the women who played Pam Beasley on The Office and Angela Martin on The Office. Their real human names are Jenna Fisher and Angela Kinsley, Kinsley. Kinsey? Kinsley?
I think it's Kinsey.
Kinsey. Okay.
Doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, no, but it's a great podcast. Very entertaining, especially if you like The Office.
Yeah, if you don't like The Office, I don't know if you'll find it interesting.
You sure will not. And then In Bed with Nick and Megan, which is Nick Offerman from, he plays Ron Swanson in Parks and Rec, and Megan Mullally, who plays... I've never seen Will and Grace, so I don't know her character's name.
I don't remember. I haven't seen it in so long.
But she's the one with a very unique voice in Will and Grace. She is... One thing I appreciate about them as human people is that I think they both have a ton of talents that you wouldn't necessarily know.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Nick Offerman, did ballet for a number of years and I think that's enough said. And
well, I was going to say too, he's actually like a master woodworker, which I think a lot of people assumed was part of the Ron Swanson character. But I saw a thing with him where he was legitimately making a canoe.
Yeah, he made a table for Rainn Wilson.
Yeah.
Who's Dwight on The Office.
Yeah.
In case you
Interesting.
don't know. Yeah, he Yeah.
So maybe
he has like a woodworking shop, and so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's expected, but I think a lot of people just assumed that was part of the character and not actually him. So it's kind of unexpected in that way.
Yeah, it's like a nice surprise.
Yeah, totally.
And Megan Mullally, I think it's Mullally. Megan Mullally, like, again, I think because her voice is so unique, and I think in Will and Grace she plays it up a bit. But she has a beautiful singing voice, and is like in a band.
Weird.
And I watched one of their music videos. It was I think it's called "Please, Mr. Jailer," and it's, first of all, I loved the music video because I felt like it was like weird and artsy in like a Yoko Ono way, but also that they knew that there's like a level of being pretentious to Yoko Ono in some ways. And so in some ways,
oh my gosh, yes.
If you're a huge Yoko fan, I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you. And I know Yoko watches our channel. I know that it's her favorite channel to watch here. So I just want to say, Yoko, this is, we love you. This is not meant to be a personal attack. Please continue being huge fans of ours. You're such a big supporter. Anyway,
this is awkward.
Is it? Why?
I was going to say I saw her exhibit at the SF MoMA forever ago.
Oh no,
it's not.
Oh,
some of it was interesting, but
okay.
I kind of struggle with some modern art. I'll just leave it at that.
What do you mean? Like you're not good at it?
No, like I have a hard time seeing the beauty or the symbolism behind an art display that is an apple with a bite taken out of it. Or
that's funny because I took, right before we started, I took a single bite out of one of those apples and I just left it on that cutting board. Yeah.
Comparable to her exhibit at the MoMA.
Yeah, I do think there's something to be said for art that is art because an established and accepted artist made it. Mm-hmm. And thus it has some sort of value when anyone else could have, like, I often feel like artists are playing a joke on the art community.
Yes. Yes. Like, I feel like, I think art is subjective. I think that there is value to some degree in every piece of art.
Art is an incredible and meaningful and important part of life.
Yes. But to Justin's point, if that was a smaller, unestablished artist that put that in a display, I think they would be ripped apart. That's all. Okay. Anyway, continue.
So if you're a smaller artist and you're thinking about, creating art that Tashina doesn't like, be warned, she might come to your house and rip you apart.
No, I wouldn't. I would support them.
Oh, I'm confused. I thought you were going to rip artists apart.
No. Like I'm saying that I think if a small artist went to a museum...
I was making a joke. I know what you meant. But go ahead if you feel like you need to explain it again.
Yeah, I think that if a small artist went to a gallery or a museum and took some of those same things and said, here's what I want to put here, I don't think they would be taken seriously. Whereas I think someone like Yoko Ono, they're just like, we're not going to say no to you, so do whatever you want. And you're giving us X number of displays. So I think the commercialism of any art can impact it to a degree on some level.
I mean, the monetization of anything impacts it.
Yeah, totally.
And I would also argue that statement of mine implies that it's negative, but I don't think it is actually. It's like, if you have the finances to be able to create more things that people enjoy, then that's a huge positive impact of the monetization of something. So
I totally agree. And just because someone like me doesn't see the value in an exhibit that's an apple with a bite taken out of it doesn't mean someone else doesn't see this incredibly beautiful, valuable thing in it. Like, I'm not saying that as to be sarcastic.
I know, it's just like, it's such a funny thing to say.
I just remember seeing it and being like, I remember sitting there and thinking like, okay, my mom has paid for me, my brother, and I to attend this museum. It is so crowded. This is the only display here. I mean, their standard things, but everyone was there to see her work. and just like thinking about the number of people in the room and how much money it had generated that day. And being like, and obviously there was more on display than just the apple with the bite taken out of it. But just being like, how much money is this generating over the course of time to be here? And how many people are here? I don't know. It was just like this weird moment for me.
Like,
as a
how
kid.
dare you not do better art, Yoko?
No, not even that, but like
All these people came all this way.
Not that, but just like I don't know. It was just really interesting to me to think about like the local art displays that I grew up, like my mom would always take us to, and how immensely critical local audiences were of small local artists. But yet here we were in this huge museum where tons of people were that had paid to be there just that one day. And yeah, anyway, you get what I'm saying.
I sure do. But you can keep going. Don't let me
No,
stop
that's
you.
it. That's it.
Okay. So Megan Mullally in her band and her music video.
I'm good at tangents.
I think we both are. Yeah. Brevity is not either of our strong suits. Strong suits.
Derang. Anyway, continue.
Just that this music video, first of all, the music is awesome and interesting because I feel like it, I'm going to butcher like an explanation or what I thought of it, but I feel like it took sounds from other times and kind of modernized it. And again, the video was very like artsy and kind of weird, but that they also sort of knew that and also kind of made a joke of it a little bit, like just in some parts.
Yeah. Like they weren't taking themselves super seriously.
Yeah, or there's almost like comedy in how seriously they are taking it. I don't know. I hope that was the intention. It's not like the music is funny necessarily, or like the, like it's not like Weird Al. And I think if I hadn't seen it with the music video, it's just the music video is not funny either. It's just there are certain like aspects to it where I feel like they're sort of, it's like a wink or a nod, like we're going over the top, and we know we are.
Yeah.
I guess that's a good way to summarize that.
Nice.
Yeah. And then the other podcast that I've been listening to here and there is Sunday School with Penn Teller. Penn Teller. No, not Penn Teller. Penn and Teller, but Teller's not on the show.
Penn Jillette.
Penn Jillette. Yep. Thank you.
Sorry.
It's fine. I was getting there though. Yeah, Penn Jillette Sunday School, which I like, but it's a little too unstructured. It's definitely very similar to what we do in that there's no real structure and there's not really a topic. And while I can appreciate that to a degree, sometimes it's just way too all over the place for me. I just can't. I can't, like, there's not enough for me to grasp onto to be interested. Sometimes. Other times I'm like, wow, this episode is hilarious. I'm totally enjoying this. I'm so glad I started listening to it.
Do you feel like it's pretty dependent on the guest?
He doesn't have guests. At least in none of the episodes I've heard.
Oh, I thought he did.
He might, but there's like 3 or 4 people that are on the show.
Okay, that's why I thought he had guests.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think part of it too, a little bit of that structure is that it doesn't necessarily feel conversational with the other people. It sort of feels more like he's telling stories and they are commenting on what he has to say.
Okay.
And there's something about that structure that I like, and something about it that can be a little tough sometimes.
Yeah.
But also, I just want to make one thing really clear, because I feel like I'm being very critical, and I don't mean that in a like, they should do this differently, or like, I could do it better. I mean it just in expressing my own feelings and opinions. I think that every single one of them is putting out something incredible. And it's not my place to judge that for the world, but I will judge it for myself.
Yeah.
So those are the podcasts that I've been enjoying.
Nice.
Yeah. And as far as YouTube channels, honestly, nothing's really doing it for me lately. I wish that it was. Like every single day I go to YouTube and I open the app and I go into the subscriptions. And there's just nothing that I'm like, wow, I really want to watch that. Nothing that I see that I'm like, wow, I want to learn how to do that. Nothing that I see that I'm like, wow, that seems really entertaining. Nothing that's like, oh, that's fascinating. Nothing that I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to hear a life update from this person. In general, I'm like, okay, none of this is really do. But I think, I don't know. I'll leave it at that. I just, if anybody knows of, actually, don't bother suggesting anything. I have such weird taste.
Yeah, you do. Not weird, specific.
Yeah, I do. I really, really do. Most videos I've been watching on YouTube lately, I watch at like 1.5 or 2x speed.
Interesting.
Like if I do want to know what's going on, which I think in that regard is like, clearly I'm not that interested.
Yeah.
I think also I haven't really been creating much in the way of like video and expanding my skill set and like doing what I consider to be my art.
Yeah.
And I haven't been flying my drone. I haven't been flying it in the simulator. And so there is a certain level of watching that stuff that I'm just like, man, I don't want to watch you do this. This just makes me want to do it.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, I was sitting down to watch this because I had 10 minutes, not because I have 3 hours to invest in something. So I'm just going to not watch it because it just makes me want to do something I can't do right now. Well, should we wrap it up?
Yeah. Sounds good.
Thanks everybody for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry that this one didn't have much of a structure. I feel super tired.
Yeah, I'm pretty tired.
We're trying here. We're trying. So if there's stuff you want us to talk about, let us know. Do me a favor though. I don't really. The first thing that we recorded, we talked about like marriage and stuff and like why we're not married and like all this. And I think part of why I had such a tough time with the first one we recorded is because I realized that's not really something I want to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's not a privacy thing. Like I could really care less. I think that the best way to describe it is like, we're not married because it's not a crucial part of our lives. And because like it's not a really important, like it's not a meaningful, like obviously there's meaning behind getting married, but like it's so far and away not a part of our lives that I'm not interested in talking about it. It's like I'm not really interested in talking about having kids either because it's so it would be like me trying to have a conversation about having a pet snake. Like
that was oddly specific.
Well, I'm just trying to think of something where it's like I don't really have an opinion on it.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything to say other than I don't want a pet snake, so I don't have a pet snake. It's, you know what I mean? Yeah,
totally.
Like and so I felt like before I was like forcing myself to have something to say of value, and I don't have anything to say of value. If you want to get married, get married.
Yeah.
It's not something, I mean, Tashina and I have talked about it for years, our feelings about it. It's really not that interesting.
No, it's not. It's not.
And same with kids.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about it for years. We both know where we stand. It's not really something either of us are going to jump into anytime soon.
Yeah.
And I have nothing more to say about it than that.
Yeah.
Do you have any more to say about those two things?
I do.
I mean, obviously I do, but I also don't care enough to talk about it. Go on.
I think the only thing that I have to say is I think that in today's society, it's something people need to be more sensitive about. I think that's all I have to say. No, just talk, like asking other people about when are you having kids, things like that. Like, I think that's something people that historically was a fine conversation topic because people were not as open about their struggles, and that was a taboo thing. And I think that in today's day and age, I mean, I just think things have shifted. What people want from their lives has shifted. What's allowed from people's lives, like cultural norms, have shifted.
Yeah. Okay, I want to make an argument there. First of all, just stop asking people.
Yes.
But also, I do think that there's a level of sensitivity that I don't think is helping. Like, I think, and this is a personal thing, so I'm not trying to say how I think the world should be.
Okay.
But personally, to me, it feels like it's more about how you ask it. Like, and here's what I mean. It seems like people are very much like, you should never ask if someone's going to have kids because you don't know if they are having trouble conceiving, and that's a huge, like, emotional thing for them. And I kind of feel like that's like saying you shouldn't ask someone if they've like, if you have somebody over and you're going to eat food, you shouldn't say, "Oh, have you already had dinner?" because they might have an eating disorder that you know nothing about. I realize that's a stretch. Bear with me, because I can imagine what's happening right now, which is people are watching this or listening to this and being like, "Fuck this guy. I don't want to hear anything he has to say." That's fine if you want to be super close-minded. I'm just saying, just try to be open. All I'm saying is that I think it's more about how you ask it than it is about the question. And I think there has to be a conversation about these things, because I feel like we're moving toward a Fahrenheit 451 type of world where books are being burned because they might offend or hurt somebody's feelings. And I feel like we're doing that conversationally. And like, if somebody comes to someone else or me and they say, "Hey, oh, you and Tashina are getting to the age where you would have kids. Like, oh, have you guys thought about having kids?" I don't know.
It's a tricky one.
I struggle with this kind of thing because my heart and like my emotional, empathetic, compassionate side are like, no, you should not ask people that because you have no idea the struggles they're going through. And that can be so hard. But then the like other side of me is like, so because people have a struggle, you should never ask them about anything. And I feel like, again, it goes back into how you ask it. Like, "Oh, are you guys, you think you guys want kids?" I don't know. I feel like as people that are hurt or offended by things, I feel like we're not putting enough behind intention. And that we are kind of causing a problem for ourselves by not understanding that, like, I think the problem is more about that in society, you can't just say, "No, we're not going to have kids." Like, I don't think people would just drop it.
No.
And I think that's more of the problem, is that the way people are asking and the fact that they won't just let things go.
Yeah.
But I don't know that there's necessarily something inherently wrong with it. But then it comes to like, okay, well, maybe there's not something inherently wrong with it, but like, maybe we should just err on the side of caution. Like this morning I tweeted, because I was going through my Instagram feed, and one of the photos in my feed was like little girls, not even teenagers, not middle schoolers, little girls in 2-piece bathing suits.
It's such a weird thing for them to put there.
And I was like, okay, I'm sure how this got here is like some influencer mom put these girls in these bathing suits, took a picture. There's nothing, there's nothing like socially weird about it. But I was like, maybe we should just like find a way to make sure photos of little girls in 2-piece bathing suits don't show up in the Discover feed of grown men.
Yeah.
Like, maybe since Instagram knows your age and your like what gender you,
and since Instagram says that real people curate what's in the Discover feed.
Yeah, so maybe it's better to just say, okay, yeah, maybe there's a guy out there who's shopping, who has a young daughter who's shopping for a bathing suit. Maybe this is going to help him find the product, but why don't we just err on the side of caution?
Yeah.
And just not put photos of young girls in bathing suits in the Discover feeds of grown-ass men. Sorry about that. The battery in the camera died. Okay, so anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is I can appreciate 100% that there are certain things that we should just drop because it's better to let this thing go than it is to keep it. Like, for example, I think it's less harmful to do certain things than it is to do them. Like, it's probably, in the grand scheme of things, less harmful to say, let's make absolutely sure that no photo of a young girl in a bikini ever shows up in the Discover feed of a grown man. I feel like that's less harmful than to say, well, like, not all men are bad and not all men are pedophiles and like, whatever. Like,
yeah.
Like, let's err on the side of caution there.
Yeah, fully.
I can appreciate that there are scenarios in which erring on the side of caution is absolutely what we should do. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, in terms of questions like, are you getting married? Are you having kids? Maybe the answer is to err on the side of caution. Maybe that is what we should do. I just think that as a society, we need to have the conversations of what's the real issue.
Yeah.
And I think that the real issue is that people apparently can't talk about this stuff without being assholes or without being insensitive to people who are going through struggles. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we need to fix. But I also understand that for the time being, maybe we just say, hey, that's not going to get fixed anytime soon. I don't know. I really struggle with it because, like I said, I have so much love for people, and people are struggling. Mm-hmm. It's like, this stuff is not easy, especially if you want to have kids and you can't. Like, I can only imagine what that must be like emotionally, the toll that must take on a person. I don't know.
Yeah, I also think too, even if you're someone that doesn't want to have kids, you're constantly asked about it. Like, I don't know.
But I just feel like people who are like annoyed by the question are using these people who have been through these traumatic experiences as their reason for why you shouldn't ask people, when it's like, no, you're just annoyed by it. Don't use these people who've been through all this trauma as an excuse for why you don't want to be asked the question.
Yeah. I mean, maybe, but it's also things like it comes up in workplace discussions about promotions of like, well, you're probably going to have a kid soon, so like we need to take that into account. And then when you say, actually, I'm not, then they're like, oh, that wasn't in our plan for you to actually have a career. Like, it's things like that too. It's not just being sensitive about how people might have infertility struggles.
Yeah.
It's about women in the workplace and how so much is assumed on women of like, no, you're not going to have a career. Like, you're 25, like, TikTok, like that is still very much present in our society. And I think for me, that's a big part of wanting to push back against it. I
just wish that wasn't a problem.
I do. Yeah, I think a lot of women wish it wasn't a problem, but
Yeah,
it very
probably
much
all of
is.
them.
And it's something that you deal with, and it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
And it's like, just don't make it a topic. Not just because people struggle with infertility and can be sensitive, but there are so many other factors at play. And it's not, it's not just about people who are struggling with fertility issues. It's about women struggling to be taken seriously in so many avenues of society and still having to push that they have value other than just having kids and getting married.
Yeah, I'm glad that you broke that down for me, because I don't know that I can't say that it's never occurred to me, but I don't know that it's occurred to me that obviously it's occurred to me that women are treated unfairly in work situations. Obviously it's occurred to me that, like what you just said about like women not being treated like they can have a career because men view them as like, oh, you're not actually serious about this job because you're just going to have kids and leave us.
Yeah.
So like, we're not even going to consider you as someone who's going to be here long term. Like, obviously that has all occurred to me, but somehow I did not make the connection that the question of, so when are you having kids, could be, because it seems so innocuous. Mm-hmm. It never occurred to me that a question like that would be asked in passing in a social situation could be devastating for a woman's career. I mean, that could literally, a 5-second conversation in a break room while you're both getting coffee could literally just decimate a woman's career. Mm-hmm. That never occurred to me. So I really appreciate you mentioning that. So I rescind my initial hesitancies about this question.
Yeah.
Obviously, the problem really is how women are being treated in the workplace. But yeah, you're right. It's totally, like, I agree with you 100%. It's better to just make that question something that just doesn't get asked.
Yeah. Because it's a multifaceted thing.
Yeah, it really
and it's going to
is.
vary depending on the person. And some people are fine with it, but you just never know. And I'd say if you are in a position where you're not sure how the person feels about it, that means,
Yeah. Yeah, I guess too, I don't mean to come off as though like, oh, now I see the value in not asking this question because it's about money and a career, but that the emotional side of things doesn't matter. It was more just trying to say that I guess it's important to have these discussions like we just had. I guess that's sort of what I'm saying. And I don't mean to imply that like women owe it to men to talk about these things or explain these things, because honestly, you shouldn't have to.
yeah.
Like, I obviously haven't worked the same kind of corporate jobs as you have, so I think there's a little bit of, like, we just have different work experience. Like, I've never worked in a job where there was concern over someone having a baby and leaving. Like, I never did that.
Yeah.
So I think that might be why I was a little more blind to it, but I'm sure there are plenty of guys in corporate America who don't realize the devastation that could be caused by that question.
Totally. Yeah, they don't have to think about, like, they have not literally been in those shoes where a man twice your age is asking about your 5-year plan for your family. Like,
Yeah.
that literally just, that would not happen in the same way. It might happen in a more casual way,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't happen in a sit down meeting where you're trying to talk about your future promotion and your future at the company.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be an issue in the same way.
Yeah.
And so I think there are a variety of ways. Like, for some women, it is a tough subject because of fertility struggles or various other issues. For some women, it's like, you just don't know. I think that's the big thing, is you just don't know. You only know what it is for you. And for some people, it's totally fine and normal. and it's a totally socially acceptable conversation topic, but it is for a variety of reasons. It's not for everyone. And so I think it's better to just be sensitive about it because you don't know what the reason is for someone else.
Yeah. I guess that's the part that I take a little bit of issue of you shouldn't ask a question because you don't know what the other person's going through. I feel like I'm still like, I don't know, because you could be sensitive about anything, like literally anything, right? Like someone could have been beaten with their dad's belt and never wear a belt. And then you ask, why aren't you wearing a belt? And that could be a very triggering question to ask. Like, do you want to go belt shopping? No, I'm trying. And that's not like, I'm not trying to be funny, right? Like people are beaten and abused and they have triggering events. My point is just that I don't know where the line is.
Yeah.
But I feel like there has to be some point at which we say, okay, these questions are questions that are kind of normal and they're socially acceptable because we've all agreed that they're socially acceptable. And then there are other questions that are socially acceptable that are fucked up. And they're socially acceptable because men have been in charge for so long, because women have been oppressed for so long. And all I'm saying is I think we need to, as a whole, have more conversations about those things so that we can see where the line is. Mm-hmm. And I think that right now there's this very much like, if you don't know, then you're an idiot. And I think that's doing more harm for movements like this than other things are.
I don't think it's if you don't know you're an idiot. I think that it's
a vibe a lot of people give off about this kind of thing.
Okay.
Like I'm sure that like I can tell because I know you so well. I can hear the tonal change. I can see the shift in your body language. Like I can tell this conversation's hard for you. So I know like there's something in there, right? And same for me. But we're still having the conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that there are a lot of people who are watching or listening to this who are totally shut down and would never be willing to have a conversation like this with somebody.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that one of those is right or wrong for the world. I'm just saying my opinion is these are conversations we have to have, and that I think things are too black and white.
See, and my feeling is that don't ask someone, when are you having kids? Let me finish.
I'm not saying anything.
Oh.
I'm literally
it looks
just
like you're
here.
going to. I think it's just that it's such a struggle for women to prove that they have value outside of that. That if you're hanging out with like your really good friends and something comes up, that's one thing. But asking people you don't really know, to me, it's a different thing. Like,
yeah, I'm agreeing with.
Okay.
I mean, that's literally what I just said. Is we have to have the conversations of what's acceptable and what's not.
Yeah.
But to say that it's black and white.
Yeah.
That you should never ask anybody under any circumstances certain questions. And honestly, with the kids thing, I actually agree, like, yeah, my opinion has officially changed. I totally think that is one of those things that maybe we should just never, maybe it just shouldn't be something that we need to talk about pretty much ever. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, I think that there are a lot of things that are not black and white. I mean, even that is not a black and white one. Like you said, like if you have close friends and you know each other's situation, like...
Yeah, you might talk about it sometimes.
Right. And if you do talk about it, I'm sure it's being brought up in a different way.
Yeah.
Like...
Totally.
Yeah. I feel like maybe you might have misunderstood what I was trying to say.
I think I did.
Yeah.
And part of it's because I'm riled up because I'm thinking
Yeah, I
about
can
like,
see that. You're very riled up.
like I've
Frazzled
literally,
even, would you say?
yeah, like I've literally had those conversations I was mentioning where I'm trying to bring up, hey, what's my future?
Yeah.
What's my career path? Oh, there is no career path for you because we assumed since you've been in a long-term relationship that you're probably going to have kids soon. So we hadn't thought about it. There is no plan for you.
That makes me want to.
Yeah.
That's so infuriating.
It
Especially
really is.
because I know the jobs you're talking about, and I know that you outperformed everybody. First of all, you outperformed everybody around you who was doing anything remotely similar to what you were doing, and you outperformed everybody's expectations, and you were underpaid. Mm-hmm. And it makes me so fucking mad that you were treated that way.
Yeah. And it's tough when you're in those situations because you're like, okay, this is just like residual cultural norms. It is not a personal thing between me and this person. And then that is very difficult to explain, especially when they're of a different generation. They're of a different
They're
time.
like, I'm just asking you. And
Yeah.
you're like, you're just trying to decide whether I have a fucking career or not. Fuck you.
Yeah. And that's it. It's really tough. And it's tough for everyone to like, again, different generations, different social expectations, different lines of what is okay to bring up in the workplace.
Yeah.
Like just so many different things that are a struggle. And it is part of, even now where it's like acceptable for women to have a career, that is still constantly brought up. And not just by people who identify as men, but as people who identify as women too, where there's so much judgment around if you are saying, I don't know that I want to have kids, or maybe I don't because I want a career. There's so much judgment still on both sides. And it's like, you don't know when people ask, you don't know why they're asking. You don't know where it's going.
Yeah.
And so immediately, I think for a lot of women, it's you go to the spot of being like, oh gosh, here we go again. And I think that's something a lot of women that are younger can relate to because I think women of any age could relate to it. But I think it's something that especially younger people who are trying to navigate the changing of social norms deal with probably a little bit more in a different way.
Yeah.
Anyway. And also because regionally it's different too.
Oh, yeah.
Like out here, people are like, shouldn't you have had like 6 kids by now? Like, like what's like, it's beyond TikTok. Like what's going on with you?
Yeah.
How did you make it? You know what I mean? So it's different in different regions. Whereas I feel like in the Bay Area is totally socially fine and normal for women to be much older when they have their first kids.
Yeah.
And out here, people that I know that are in their early 30s are done having kids. Like they,
Yeah.
like it's just different.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting out here because it's such a part of the culture of being out here that it's like not even just in the religion side of it, but it's just such a part of the culture that, like you said, so many young people we know have several kids, and it's almost like it's very, very interesting.
Yeah. And I think being in the San Francisco area, you forget that is not the norm. That's the outlier. The rest, like so much of the country is still like what it is here.
Yeah.
Where those expectations are very much in place.
California's definitely a bubble, the Bay Area especially.
Yeah. And I think we've both been lucky to grow up in places where it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's also recognizing that so many parts of the country are not that way. And in so many parts of the country, it's so much harder for women still to like be taken seriously in the workplace. Like the struggles I had in San Francisco were tough, but I can imagine how much harder it is if you're in the Midwest.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah. So it ties into so many different things in our society. And I think that is a big part of, like you were saying, why we should talk about asking that question and the issues around it, because those issues aren't going to resolve themselves. But also, I think that's why it's important to be sensitive about asking those questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I
Yep.
agree.
Well, that took a political-ish turn. I don't know if political's the right word, but
Yeah. See, I have a problem with that too. I have a problem with so many things. It bothers me that people are like, okay, like for example, this just happened. And this is not a criticism, because you're right. It is a political thing.
Yeah.
I think what's more annoying to me is that it shouldn't be a political thing. Like this should just like it shouldn't be like an issue to discuss. Like
Yeah.
Like if you do the same job as someone, you should get paid the same. It seems pretty fucking cut and dry. I don't understand, bless you, why it's a thing.
yeah.
But it is. That's the part that's annoying to me. And so I'm in this, a number of drone groups and like forums and stuff. And something that I've been thinking about a lot lately is somebody brought up what recently happened at BYU, which was that basically BYU removed language from their like guidance and policies that I mean, very, very anti-gay, very, very homophobic language in their guidelines. This is my understanding. Basically, they removed that language.
Good.
Well, that's what everybody thought. So, like, students are like, oh, this is amazing. Like, we can be ourselves, blah, 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 blah. And then BYU basically came out and was like, oh, no. We're still, like, the policy still exists. We're still going to be enforcing this all the same way. We just took it out of, like basically they, in my opinion, they made it worse.
Yeah.
Because now it's like, they're doing it in the shadows. They don't even have the fucking guts to come out and be like, yep, we're bigots. Like, they're just going to, like, take it. It's not in writing. So, like, if you look at this, you wouldn't think we're bigots, but don't worry, we are. Like, it's so fucked up. And so someone brought that up in one of the groups and was like, talking about it. And somebody else commented and was like, please, can we not talk about religion or politics? Because I hear enough about it, like, because they're in the Mormon church, and they're like, I already hear enough about it, and like, I just want one place where I can go to be free from those things. And here's the thing: while I get that,
Yeah.
completely. It's a hobby. It does not inherently have anything to do with, gay rights or religion or just human rights at all. So I get that you would say, like, I understand where they're coming from. The issue that I mean, that's obviously I have an issue with that as a whole, but I get it.
Yeah. I
Like-
get their sentiment.
Right. Yeah. Like if I'm in like a Star Wars group and going and meeting up with people, I don't want to talk about certain things either. Like, Anyway, the real issue that I took with it is that right now there's all this new like regulation going on with the FAA regarding drones. So for the last several weeks, the group has constantly been talking about politics.
Yeah. Just not.
Yeah. And that's what it's like. Look, if we want to all agree that we have this space where we're not going to talk about sex, religion, and politics, cool, fine. But you can't, like, it. Where there's a problem is when you say, I just don't want to talk about the things that make me uncomfortable, and especially when it's like, okay, but this is a fucking human rights issue.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about people's ability to be themselves. And you don't want to talk about it because you don't feel like talking about politics and religion in this group. Fuck you. Because you talk about politics every fucking day in this group.
Yeah. They just don't want to talk about ones unless it immediately impacts them.
In a positive way.
Yes. And a law
That
that
really
impacts
fucking
your
bothers me.
hobby is very, very different than anything political that affects your ability to live your life as
Yeah.
a human being. Like, anyway, man.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. I don't know what the point of that was. I knew I had one when I started.
Just having conversations, maybe? I don't know. I think, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. It's a tough one.
It really is.
But it also shouldn't be.
Well, I really appreciate you talking to me about everything that you've gone through and helping me to understand why the question of are you having kids should not be a normal one that's asked. Because I really did not get it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that you were willing to be patient enough and open enough to tell me your thoughts and also to hear mine and not just shut down, because I feel like now I can go into the world and be more of an advocate for this, as where if you had just refused, like if you had just gotten upset and like refused to talk to me about it, which also would have been fine and acceptable. But I think that in the grand scheme of things, this is a good thing. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you listening and letting me share that.
Well, this is just as much your show as it is mine. So
I know, but I'm just saying it would have been just as easy for you to not hear it, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like if I'm saying something that could potentially hurt someone, I want to know. And just because I don't understand it doesn't mean that I can't understand it.
Totally.
So, and I hope that I've expressed enough that I'm like, I think there are some things that are really easy for me to not be stubborn about. And there are other things that are more difficult. Like it's pretty easy for me to not be stubborn about that because you explained it and it makes fucking sense. Like I get it now. I think I just didn't get it before.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I had never thought. I think I didn't get it before, and I thought that I did. And I think that's really the dangerous place that people go to, is that they don't understand someone else's concern, or they don't understand how it impacts somebody else's life, but they think that they do, so they don't ask the questions. And I think I fell into that, where like I thought I understood the issue, so I didn't ask like why this is such a problem.
Yeah.
And now that we have the conversation, I'm like, wow, holy shit, I get it. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
High five.
If you're still here, thank you for listening.
Yeah, wow. This is great. Should we actually call it?
Yes,
Should we call it now?
Call it. Yeah.
Especially, yeah. Okay.
This has been a long one.
Well, thank you all for listening.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
I hope you are having a good day. If you have any podcast recommendations, leave them below. And if you check out any of the ones we suggested, let us know in the comments too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. We love you. Bye.
Bye.